If you think you've already seen every scary movie on Netflix, trust me, there are still some terrifying gems hiding in plain sight. Today, we're diving into 10 of the most watched horror movies on Netflix that kept audiences awake at night. Some of these films went massively viral, while others quietly terrified viewers without getting the attention they deserved. And honestly, number 5 and number 9 are absolute bangers that completely caught people off guard. So make sure you watch till the end, and if you love movie lists like this, don't forget to subscribe for more insane recommendations. 10. The Platform, 2019. This disturbing horror thriller begins with a mysterious vertical prison where prisoners are fed through a descending platform filled with food. The terrifying twist is that inmates on the upper floors eat first while those below survive on whatever scraps remain. Every month, the prisoners wake up on a completely different level, creating constant fear about where they will land next. Watching how greed, panic, and desperation spread through the levels makes the tension feel incredibly uncomfortable and real. Instead of relying on typical horror monsters, the film creates fear through its disturbing social experiment and psychological pressure. By the final moments, the story leaves viewers shocked, unsettled, and thinking about the terrifying message long after the movie ends. 9. Talk to Me, 2022. This horror movie starts with a simple but terrifying idea where a group of friends discovers a strange way to contact spirits. At first, it feels like a thrilling game they play at parties, daring each other to see how long they can handle it. But things quickly spiral out of control when one of them pushes the ritual far beyond the safe limit. What makes it even scarier is how curiosity and peer pressure slowly lead everyone into dangerous territory. The movie builds tension through emotional consequences rather than relying only on loud jump scares. By the end, you realize the scariest part was never the spirits, but how easily people open doors they cannot close. 8. World War Z, 2013. From the very beginning, this movie throws you into large-scale chaos that barely gives you time to breathe. The speed of the infected makes every single scene feel urgent and dangerously unpredictable. You feel the global panic spreading just as quickly as the outbreak itself. The action feels massive but still grounded enough to stay believable. There are moments of hope that make the darker scenes hit even harder emotionally. The scale of destruction feels overwhelming, almost like the world is collapsing in real time. By the end, you feel exhausted in the best way possible after surviving the chaos alongside the characters. 7. Ma, 2025. Ma blends emotional family drama with supernatural horror in a way that feels deeply personal and intense. The tension rises slowly, almost like a storm building quietly before everything explodes. The cultural elements add richness and authenticity to the overall horror experience. Instead of constant scares, it focuses on atmosphere and emotional weight to create fear. The supernatural moments feel earned because of the strong character development. You can feel the love, sacrifice, and desperation driving every major decision. By the end, you're left thinking about how far someone would go to protect their family. 6. It Chapter 2, 2019. Returning to Derry with the Adult Losers Club feels nostalgic, but way darker and more emotionally intense this time. Pennywise feels even more sinister because he attacks their deepest childhood fears in brutal ways. The movie balances terrifying moments with emotional reunions that feel surprisingly heartfelt. There's something deeply unsettling about watching past trauma return in such a literal form. Some scenes feel surreal and nightmarish, almost like being trapped inside someone's worst memory. Even during slower scenes, you can feel the threat lingering in the background. By the end, it feels less like defeating a monster and more like finally confronting your past. 5. Until Dawn, 2025. This movie feels like watching real people make horror game decisions, and you already know someone is going to regret it. The isolated snowy setting makes everything feel claustrophobic and far more dangerous than it should be. Every choice the characters make feels like it could instantly decide who survives and who doesn't. The tension builds so strongly that you might actually find yourself yelling at the screen. It blends supernatural mystery with survival horror in a way that feels surprisingly fresh. Some twists genuinely catch you off guard without feeling random or forced. By the end, you'll be thinking about which choices you would have made differently in their situation. 4. 28 years later, 2025. If you thought the apocalypse looked terrifying before, this sequel somehow makes it feel even more hopeless and intense. The infected are faster, more aggressive, and completely unpredictable in the most nerve-wracking way possible. The empty cities feel hauntingly beautiful, while also reminding you how fragile civilization really is. What makes it powerful is the emotional breakdown of survivors struggling to hold on to their humanity. Every quiet moment feels just as heavy as the explosive action sequences. You genuinely feel the exhaustion and fear weighing down the characters throughout the film. By the end, you're left wondering what humanity would truly become after decades of survival and collapse. 3. Ziem, 2025. Ziem feels like one of those hidden horror movies you randomly click on and then cannot stop thinking about afterward. It begins almost normal, which makes the shift into psychological darkness even more unsettling to experience. The tension creeps in slowly, making you uncomfortable without clearly explaining why you feel that way. You constantly question whether what you're seeing is reality or something much darker, unfolding mentally. When it ends, you'll probably sit there quietly for a moment, just processing everything you just watched. 2. The Elixir, 2025. Imagine discovering something that promises healing and power, but slowly reveals a terrifying cost nobody warned you about. The movie starts calm and intriguing, pulling you in with curiosity before tightening the tension around every character. You can feel the dread building quietly in the background without even noticing it at first. The characters make believable decisions, which somehow makes the consequences feel even more disturbing and realistic. Instead of loud jump scares, it relies on suspense and uncomfortable silence to create fear. Every twist feels earned rather than forced, making the story hit much harder emotionally. By the end, you'll seriously question whether chasing power is ever worth the price it demands. 1. Frankenstein, 2025. You know when a classic horror story gets rebooted and somehow feels darker, deeper, and way more emotional than you expected. This version really makes you question who the true monster is, the creation or the man obsessed with playing God. The atmosphere feels heavy and dramatic, almost like every scene is carrying the weight of a terrible mistake. Instead of relying on cheap scares, it slowly builds some psychological tension that stays with you long after each scene ends. The creature's loneliness and rejection feel surprisingly emotional, which makes the horror hit even harder. By the time it ends, you might actually feel sympathy for the monster more than the scientist who created him. So those were 10 of the most watched horror movies on Netflix that proved just how powerful a good scare can be. Some rely on psychological tension, others on disturbing stories, but every single one leaves a lasting impact. A few of these films sparked huge discussions online because of their shocking twists and unforgettable endings. If you've seen any of them, let me know which one creeped you out the most. And if you want more top 10 movie lists and hidden Netflix recommendations, make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for the next video.